Sin, it's the glory. 100 stripes, 100 stories. It's the Pledge of Allegiance on the 4th of July. It's them handwritten letters from home. It's them sleepless nights alone. It's his newborn baby he left with his wife. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, lay down, here's a line. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, for these stars and stripes. Hey.
Oh, stop stalling. Come on.
I can't think. There's all this noise.
Or is it because I've built a stronghold around Greenland? I've driven you out of Western Europe? And I've left you teetering on the brink of complete annihilation.
I'm not beaten yet. I still have armies in the Ukraine.
The Ukraine. You know what the Ukraine is? It's a sitting duck. A road apple, Newman. The Ukraine is weak. It's feeble. I think it's time to put the hurt on the Ukraine.
I come from Ukraine. You not say Ukraine weak?
Yeah, well, we're playing a game here, pal.
Ukraine is game to you? How about I take your little boras?
What's wrong?
Daddy's going to do that.
What?
Daddy's going to do crack.
He what?
He's going to do a crack.
Are you serious? Daddy!
Welcome back to the front line with Joe and Joe, everybody. Joe Pasillo and Joe Rossinello. Thursday night, starting a little bit late tonight. We apologize, but once more, dear brothers and sisters, let us go into the breach. Joe, into the breach is where this week has been. I mean, and we got a lot to talk about. We got a lot of clips for you tonight. So we're going to be talking about obviously the Democrats. We can't cover all of them, nor do I want to give them that much attention. But we're going to cover a little bit, particularly that guy. See, Joe, I'm trying to be nicer. There was a name. Instead, I just said that guy Al Green. We're gonna show a clip from
dude. He looks nuts.
He really is.
He looks nuts, dude.
He's Texas. He's got that ponytail.
Yeah, he's got a cane and he's got like this crazy beard. I mean, I don't know what the heck's going on with that dude.
No, I know. But the thing is, like the Democrats, I mean, if you needed more convincing about how far off the deep end they've gone, I mean, all you have to do, and we got a couple clips for you from this week to show you Al Green. We got to talk about. We're going to talk about Zelensky and the Ukraine. Okay, we're gonna move it over to Canada because Doug Ford is talking tough, Joe.
Yeah, he's going nuts, dude. Dougie's going berserk.
Yeah,
we shut off the electric in New York, dude.
Yeah. We got a couple of notes on and a clip for you on Dougie Ford. Our understanding, people in Alberta might want to say see ya to Canada. We'll talk about that a little bit. And we'll talk, of course, about Elon Musk. Joe, they really like, just if you look at this past week, right? They really have gone off the deep end. They are showing themselves to be petulant children who realize that not only are they not getting their way, they're getting their toys taken away from them. See, it's one thing when you get punished, Joe, and you got 5 kids, all right? I have one. It's when we can speak the same language here. It's one thing when you're punished and they still have their toys in their room. They're just not allowed to touch them until some future date. This is a punishment where they get sent to their room. All their toys get taken out, all right, by Papa, in this case, Trump. He brings him into the middle of the living room and says, hey, come here, Junior, I want to show you something. And takes a hammer and breaks all the toys into a million pieces, okay? They're not getting the toys back. And that's what they are. Have you seen, I'll give you an example. Back when Obama was the liar in chief, okay? Republicans, there was one time, I forgot the guy's name, Joe, I forgot his last name, from South Carolina. He was a member of the House, a Republican member of the House. And Obama said something that was a blatant lie about Obamacare.
Oh, he screamed, you liar.
He screamed, the liar that you could barely hear, okay? He was censured by the Republicans at that time, okay? Outside of that one incident, I never remember a Republican. Now, Republicans and any party has the right to sit down and not applaud. If you don't want to applaud, you don't have to. But this guy, Al Green, holding up those signs, all right, that says Musk steals. I want to tell them all, Musk steals nothing. Musk is worth $300 billion. What are you worth? What is Musk going to be stealing from you. And doing all that, I have never seen anything like that. They wouldn't even get up for that little black kid with brain cancer. They wouldn't even get up for him, okay? Who Donald Trump just officially made a Secret Service agent with a badge and everything, okay? Joe, we've been saying for however long, they're insane. They're even more insane.
Dude, the kid's in good company. Elvis got a badge too from Nixon.
Did he really?
Yes, he did.
Elvis
That
got
is a sight. For those who, after the show, want to catch a laugh, look at Elvis's visit to the White House. He's completely high. He's talking to Richard Nixon in like Elvis full regalia, and Nixon is trying to keep a straight face. It's similar to like the Kanye West visit with Trump. Do you remember that friggin' nightmare? That was bad. So, so the kid's in good company. Elvis got a badge too, and he was psyched about it. He was.
He got a badge from the president.
He did.
But anyway, we're going to get into all the insanity when it comes to the left and everything else. We appreciate you all hanging out with us tonight. Remember, we're going across X, Rumble, Facebook, and YouTube, or wherever you see us. Hit the share button. I want to see notifications right here on my phone that you all are sharing this video. All right, let's get it rocking.
Well, let me tell you. All right, so do you know what the United Nations resolution was? I'll tell you if you want to hear what it was. It basically said this has been a horrible war. It's time for it to end. The job of the UN is to bring about peace in the world. I thought that's what the UN was created to do, to stop wars and to prevent them. And that's what the resolution did. Was it antagonistic towards the Russians? No. Back to the point. But it also didn't praise the Russians. All it said is, this is a bad war. It needs to end. And by the way, at the Security Council, which has not been widely reported, the first resolution on Ukraine that has passed the Security Council in 3 years, passed this week because of the leadership of President Trump, and it's a resolution that says, bad war needs to end, let's bring the two sides together. That's what the resolution is. Again, what is the United Nations for? Isn't it not a forum to promote peace in the world? And shouldn't we all be happy that we have a president who's trying to stop wars and prevent them instead of start them? And I just don't get it. I really don't, other than the fact that it's Donald J. Trump. If this was a Democrat that was doing this, everyone would be saying, well, he's on his way to the Nobel Peace Prize. This is absurd. We are trying to end a war. You cannot end a war unless both sides come to the table, starting with the Russians. And that is the point the president has made. And we have to do whatever we can to try to bring them to the table to see if it's even possible. I'm not promising you it's possible. I'm not telling you it's 90% likely. I'm saying it's 0% likely if we don't get them to a negotiating table. And the sooner everyone grows up around here and figures out that this is a bad war that's heading in a bad direction with death and destruction and all kinds of dangers surrounding it that could spiral into a broader conflict, the sooner people grow up and realize that, I think the more progress we're going to be able to make. But the president's crystal clear. He campaigned on it, and he's going to govern on it. And that is, he is going to be a president that tries to achieve peace, and he has been very clear this is a war that would have never happened had Donald Trump been in the White House, and it needs to end, and we're going to do everything we can to end it in an enduring and sustainable and fair way.
I think I'm going to throw it right to you, Joe. I'm going to say one thing. Marco Rubio, amongst all the other true things that he said, and we'll talk more about those. If this was a Democrat, they'd be putting him up for the Nobel Peace Prize. Remember, Barack Obama got the Nobel Peace Prize without ever having done an effing thing. Not one thing, okay? He didn't even have an opportunity to do something you might agree with or not agree with before he did any of that. He's got to get nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. And here's Donald Trump trying to end this idiocy, okay? And he's constantly getting pounded. Joe, I'll throw it over to you.
Very impressed with Marco Rubio. Not on this. Too. Seriously. Marco Rubio is showing his skill as a politician. I got to give credit where credit's due because I wasn't psyched about his nomination, but he's really, really coming through. That was straight up and down common sense. He's referring to the UN. It's as objective as you're going to get. But it's a third party that's basically saying the war should end. Ultimately, the war should never have started because of NATO. NATO breached the line. This goes all the way back probably to Clinton. I mean, we could bridge it all the way back, but we could debate that. Ultimately, what Donald Trump is trying to do, if you ask me, is noble for this reason and this reason alone. He's trying to stop death and destruction, and he's right. Rubio's not promising anything. All he's saying is people have to come to the table, and they refuse. They absolutely refuse. And here's another thing, and we're going to talk about that in the next clip. Europe, after that disaster of a meeting that took place in the White House, a disaster of a meeting, Europe the next day on Sunday, well, 2 days later on Sunday, met basically to show the world that we don't, quote unquote, need America. Where are you going to get that money? Ultimately, Europe is saber rattling. I heard a clip this morning from Macron in France, and then there was another piece of news from Germany saying that they have to prepare for war with Russia. Are these people crazy? If they look at the history that Europe has tried to wage war with Russia, we can go all the way back. Napoleon, we can go back to Lithuania. I'm talking hundreds of years. It's never worked, and it never will work. They don't have the money. It's insane, Joe. It is absolutely insane, and Europe is off the rails. And I'm going to tell you this. They are absolutely putting at risk our friendship. There is no question about it, and I will guarantee you there are conversations going on right now to exit NATO.
Well, see, the thing is, I don't. Trump made a great point to Zelensky. Okay, when he said to him, "See, Joe, I'm trying to be nicer. It's Lent. Okay, I'm trying to be nicer. I didn't call him what I wanted to call him. I called him Zelensky. I won't call him President Zelensky, but Trump made a good point, dude. You got no cards." And with Europe, Trump is going to say the same thing. You have no cards. The only time you paid your fair share into NATO is when I made you in my first term. Okay. And all I have to do is say, guys, guess what? NATO is a Cold War construct. It's no longer needed. We're out. Okay. And you guys defend yourself. Like you said, all the Russians have to do is wait for a winter. Okay. That's all they got to do is unless Europe's prepared to start sending nuclear missiles in there, all they got to do is wait for a winter. Napoleon froze, had to retreat. Hitler got bogged down as soon as the winter came. Okay. And by the way, the Germans were making a lot of room, making a lot of headway when they attacked Russia. And then the winter came. And guess what happened? They were bogged down. Geographically, Russia's a very difficult place if you're in Europe to send in troops to go eastward. Okay. Not a really good idea. History kind of shows that. But all Trump's got to do is say, listen, Macron, see, Joe, married to those French women. That was actually pretty good. Macron, Starmer, who's the idiot in okay, let me take that. Who's the person in Germany?
I don't even know, to be honest.
I don't even know. Viktor Orban's not going for this.
No.
Okay.
No.
Others
you
in
got Canada. They have like this picture, like it's floating around social media, defending the free world.
Yeah, okay. And you know what Putin's going to do? Putin is going to burn that picture. And all Trump's got to do is say, listen, guys, you go down this path. You go down this path. Okay, we're out. We're out of NATO.
Well, Joe, you hit it right on the head. That's the message. You go down this path. I would make it crystal clear, and I'd make it publicly. You go down this path. You go down it alone. Don't you dare come looking for help down the road. Don't you dare, because I'm telling you this is a no-win situation. But here's the reason why the warmongers want it to continue. They make money off of it, Joe. That is why America has been in endless wars basically since Vietnam. They make money out of it. You have the construction lobbies. You have the what's it called? The War Machine, Boeing, and all those folks that are making all the battleships, all the bombs. You have the insurance companies who are basically floating bonds. You have the banks. Everyone's making money off of the war except the people who are going and dying and the people in the country. The Ukraine has been used. It's nothing more than a vassal state. It's being kicked around between NATO and Russia. And I'm not saying Putin is innocent, but I'm going to tell you this. The people of the Ukraine are being used as a kickball, and people are dying left and right. Left and right. Isn't it at least a good best efforts to try to end it. And that's what Trump is doing. He's not going to hand Putin like the whole country but I'm going to tell you this, Putin has a lot of cards right now. The Ukraine does not have the cards. Stop listening to the mainstream media.
Stop listening to the Europeans.
That's another thing. That's
another thing. And the other thing, just on a different level, Joe, think about this too. You're talking about just from America alone, you're talking about $350 billion. We know this war is BS. We know that the reason why the former president of the Ukraine was overthrown by our CIA and the oligarchs was because he wanted neutrality. He said we're neutral.
Duly elected president by the people, by the way.
Right. For all those Democrats out there who talk about threats to democracy, okay? He was actually elected. The CIA overthrew him, okay, along with the oligarchs. They popped in Zelensky. Why did they overthrow him? Because he said, I'm neutral on NATO. We don't have to be members of NATO. We'd like to be, we're going to talk to both sides. We're going to talk to Europe. We're going to talk to Russia, but we're neutral on this because they needed to have you couldn't have that if you're going to keep moving the line closer and closer and closer.
And I don't even know why you have to. Why? Why is that necessary?
Do you want the larger answer to that question that goes beyond just the day-to-day unfortunate death and destruction that you're seeing? Because the world has to be in a state of perpetual war in order for the Marxists to actually affect their global takeover and their new world order. You have to be at war. There cannot be peace. Peace is war, as Orwell said. Okay? You need to be in a state of perpetual conflict. Why? One of the reasons why you sow fear amongst your people. We have to go to war. We have to fight against Russia, because if not, Putin wants to take over the world. That's an effing lie. Putin has no global sights. He's not Joseph Stalin. Okay? That guy, I'm sorry. I don't care how this sounds. Putin has been protecting his border. That's what he's been doing. All right? And so the larger question to your answer, Joe Rossinola, or the larger answer to your question, in my view, is you need to be in a state of perpetual war, okay, so that you can have more control as governments. You could have more control over your people. That and the fact that, a lot of people getting rich off it too.
Go to Tulsi Gabbard. She has a great commentary on.
And they also, though, think that they're in more alignment, and they should be, with the U.S. when it comes to those freedoms and things you talk about. Certainly, those are not things that you would say that Russia or Putin celebrates or bestows on his own people.
That's correct. I would not make that claim, and it's clear that that's not the case, nor does President Trump. But that's not really what we're talking about here. We're talking about many of these European countries and Zelensky himself, who claim to be standing and fighting for the cause of freedom and democracy, when we actually look at what's happening in reality in these countries, as well as with Zelensky's government in Ukraine, is the exact opposite. You have the canceling of elections in Ukraine. You have political parties being silenced or even criminalized or thrown in prison. You have the freedom of religion, churches being shut down. You have political opposition being silenced. You have total government control of the media. We could go down a whole laundry list of issues that are against the values of democracy and freedom. So it really begs the question, as Vice President Vance said again in Munich, it's clear that they're standing against Putin. Obviously, that's clear. But what are they actually really fighting for? And are they aligned with the values that they claim to hold in agreement with us? The values that President Trump and Vice President Vance are standing for, and those are the values of freedom, of peace, and true security.
All right, so the way that you describe Ukraine and the way that most Americans and most of the world understands Russia, are you saying it's essentially choosing between the lesser of two evils?
What I'm focused on is what President Trump is focused on, which is peace, seeing the world through a very clear picture and making sure that the president is having honest and good faith negotiations with both of these countries to bring about an end to this war. That is what it's about. That lives are at stake. The potential of World War III, if this war continues to go on and escalate, is what's at stake.
I'm going to make one comment and throw it right over to you, and I don't care how controversial it sounds. If I, right now, me, my wife, and my son, as a Christian family, had a choice between moving to one of two places, and I'm not talking about the lesser of two evils either. I'm talking about one being infinitely better for my safety and security and for my freedom than the other. Would I have a problem living under Vladimir Putin? I would have no problem living under Vladimir Putin. He's not a threat to my freedom at all. Do you know who I would ever, me and my family would be at risk as normal human beings, number one, and Christians, number two? Ukraine under Zelensky. Ukraine. And that's the truth. I have nothing. I did a video. I posted it last week. Putin's not my enemy. You know what, Joe? You and I have more enemies in the United States. We have more, as Catholic men, we have more enemies, and that's demonstrable by Joe Biden's actions and Merrick Garland's actions, okay? It's demonstrable that we have greater enemies as Roman Catholics in the United States than we have in Vladimir Putin. He's not my enemy at all.
Well, Putin is no saint, but I know what you're saying in the sense that clearly Zelensky is a puppet for the globalists. That's why he's there. Everything Tulsi Gabbard said has been documented. He suspended elections. He suspended freedom of the press. He is suspending certain church participation. That is all true. And that does not mean that they are promoting democracy. Here's the thing, though. The definition of democracy has changed. And Europe is not on the same page as us. And they haven't been for quite some time. Look at what's going on in the UK. Look at what's going on in France. They're stopping freedom of speech. They opened up the borders to basically steal the country away from their own people. And they tried to do the same thing here. And if Harris won, the first thing she would have done was signed an executive order, given amnesty and the ability to 15 million people to vote. That's the only reason why it's a tactic, and it's being done across the West. So look at the pattern and open your eyes. Ultimately, Europe is not on the same page with us, and they better rethink that for one reason and one reason only. Do you like our money? And that is exactly how I would phrase it to them in a meeting, to their face. I don't care about your rhetoric. Call yourself a democracy and all the nonsense because your actions do not prove it out. Do you like our money? Period. End of story. It's a yes or a no. If you do, then get in line. If you don't, maybe we have to rethink certain agreements. Maybe we have to rethink certain alliances. Alliances change, just like time changes. We don't have to be friends with France. There's other countries. We can make alliances, frankly, with Hungary, Argentina. Hopefully Brazil changes. They stole that election. That's a fact. That's an absolute fact. Another thing the press didn't cover after Lula. He's a convicted felon. When the last time you caught any coverage on that? Maybe we have to rethink our alliances. But if you want to go down this rabbit hole, a rabbit hole you absolutely cannot win, have at it. We're not being a part of it. And if you like our money, I would rethink about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like you said, alliances haven't lasted, long lasted over time. They always change. Different people, the old people who created the old alliance, they pass away. The new scene comes in. They want to remake it in their own image, and then before you know it, it falls apart. And as far as Europe is, listen, what you know would be great. Let Joe, let's daydream. Even though it's the nighttime, let's daydream a little bit. You know what would be great is if the European Union, okay, that claims to speak for obviously all of Europe, right? Here's what they do. They throw it out to their people and we throw it out to our people. We put together a fund between them and us. I don't know. I'm just going to use a number. $1 trillion, which nowadays, Joe, doesn't seem like a lot of money when you consider the fact that we have $36 trillion in debt. But hear me here, Joe. Hear me now, okay? Here's what we do. We make a deal with the Europeans, and then we make a deal with us. We tell everybody this is the way it's going to be. Europe is going to continue down the path that it's going. You're going to get all your wokeism, your leftism. You're going to have all the open borders you want. They're going to do that. You sell, if you're an American and you like that idea that you want to have that here, we're not doing that here. You sell your house to the government. We'll pay you, okay? And you could take that money and you could go buy a house in Europe. And they tell the Europeans the same thing. If you own a home in Europe and you don't want that crap anymore and it's hard for you to move, we'll take you here, all right? You sell your house to the EU. All right. And then we just do swaps like that. And all the lunatics could go to Europe, a once great place when the Catholic Church ran things. Okay, all the insane people who belong in an insane asylum could go there, and we'll take all the good people of Europe over here. How's that for an idea?
That's a dream. That's a dream. But in a way, dude, listen, that's where politics really, people are not logical. I mean, I had a conversation today at work. It's insane how people say, like, talking about, like, you can't do what Elon Musk is doing. You can't run the government like a business. Why not?
Why not?
You're okay with theft? I'm not. It's my money. I'm not okay with it. I don't care who's stealing it.
Who would
I'm
make
not.
an idiotic statement like that?
Well, because people, Joe, it's tribalism. People aren't.
But that's
thinking.
Idiotic, though.
No, Joe,
there's a government like a business.
No, I see things on. These are smart people too. I see things on social media. I can't even believe certain things are posted. I can't even believe it because people want to believe it. It's not logical but that's a conversation for another day.
Well, I'll tell you something. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, ultimately, Europe is not on the same page as America. They're not. Globalism is a disease. Globalism destroys the people. And again, don't take my word for it. Start broadening your horizons in terms of what you look at for news. That's all I'm going to say. Look at Australia. Look at local news in certain countries in Europe. Look at Canadian news. It destroys regular people. It's modern day feudalism. And I'm not for it. No. For that simple reason, whether a Republican or a Democrat supports it. Like Nikki Haley. I would never vote for Nikki Haley. She's a globalist and she's a Republican. I would never vote for Nikki Haley. Any globalist does not help regular people. In fact, it enslaves people. And frankly, people who support that, who somehow think that they're a part of the country club, you're delusional. You're delusional.
That's just George Carlin said. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. Okay,
that's right. That is Joe. That's right. But that's the sickness of the mind, the tribalism. People don't think straight. They empower people that slit their own throats. It's sick. It's sick.
Well, here's something sicker.
Get them out of there. Get every single last one of those political DC goons out of there. Disrespecting the president of the United States of America, booing and screaming and yelling and acting a plumb fool while the president is trying to talk. Can't even let the man talk. You don't disrespect the president of the United States of America during a joint speech? What are y'all booing? Are y'all booing the fact that President Trump has caught on to all the fraud that's been going on in D.C.? Are y'all mad, huh? Because you couldn't steal the election from Donald J. Trump? Huh? Is that why you're booing him? Is that why you are booing him, huh? Are you mad because he's trying to make America great again? Huh? Are you mad because you have been exposed? Are you mad because Elon Musk and Doge is saving our tax dollars and cutting out all that waste and fraud? Is that why you're booing him? Huh? But let the man talk. I don't give a damn why you boo, why you don't like him. Let the man talk. Show him some kind of respect. You ain't got to like him, but show him some respect. So thank you, Mike Johnson, for standing up for President Trump and letting him know you will not allow that. Man over here trying to give a State of the Union speech, a joint address, whatever you want to call it. And y'all want to act like a bunch of children. You know what? Children behave better than that. And everybody who interrupted the president, every single politician who interrupted the president should be suspended from Congress.
During the course of the event, which is wanting to get reaction on Congressman Al Green's antics and being ejected, 80% of speech watchers said that the Democratic congressman's interrupting of Trump's speech was inappropriate. Only 20% of speech watchers thought what Green did was appropriate, Aaron.
You know, there's a lot of people sometimes that say the same thing on social media, like have the same reaction to something. Sometimes it's, and we're going to show a clip. Sometimes it's by design, and sometimes because it's just so true. And what Terrence K. Williams just said is something you said, and something I said, and something every sane, rational person in America, Joe, or in the world for that matter, who watched that speech the other night and saw what the Democrats are doing, used the same word to describe them. Children. They're children. They've shown themselves to be. I was young at the time when Tip O'Neill was the Speaker of the House. Tip O'Neill was not a child, okay? People I've intensely disliked on the political level because I disagreed with them. People like Bill Clinton, I'll give you an example. Bill Clinton would not have done that. I'm sorry. Like if Bill Clinton was a congressman, I don't know about Hillary. She probably would have sat on her hands. I wouldn't see Bill Clinton doing that. I really don't, okay? Walter Mondale, Michael Dukakis, I don't care. Pick your Democrat from back 30 years ago. Doing what Rashida Tlaib in Illinois. Adam Schiff, Joe, sat there like this all night long. All night long. These people are absolutely children. There is no better way to describe them. How about that?
Well, I would say, I'd put it this way. I think they're so full of hate, they've lost all means of logic and rationality. They're so full. Hate does that to a person. And that is the result of it. But here's the thing I want people to pay attention to. 80% of CNN viewers, this isn't Fox, said that that's inappropriate. That's your voting base. If I'm an analyst, a Democratic analyst, all I would say is this. That was an absolute nightmare. That was a nightmare for your positions. Do you want to win? And that's not the way to do it. It comes right down to that. And frankly, if you don't want to win, keep it up. And I'm not the only one who's saying it. We're going to soon see a clip from Stephen A. Smith, but there are other Democrats who are saying the same thing. Jon Stewart, Bill Maher. They're basically saying you have to relook at your positions because Donald Trump beat you in every single swing state. I think the number is like 80-something, 87 counties flipped.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, that is a mandate. Every single swing state, you lost. So what you have to do is sit down and rethink your battle plan. And that is not doing that. Period. End of story. It was a horrible display. It did not serve you. And 80% of your voting base, because that's who's watching CNN, just told you that. So my question to all those people who are listening to my voice, who disagree with me, are you willing to change? Because if you're not, I don't think you're going to do too well in the midterms.
I can't see it. And we've said here at the front line with Joe and Joe before, I can't see how they think that this is going to be like one of those traditional historical cycles where the president of one party wins, and then 2 years later, it has the House and Senate, and 2 years later, the House and Senate, one or the other or both, flip to the other party. With what these children are doing, those 87 counties you just described that flipped. Okay, you're gonna retake the House and the Senate. How? By sitting there with signs that say lies and Musk steals, and Al Green waving his cane saying y'all should be impeached. Y'all should be impeached. Is that how you think? The American people are worried about right here, their pocket. Okay? That's the first and foremost thing, as we say at the show all the time. All right? Most people vote with their pocket. Another thing that they vote on is whether or not a person has a certain level of sanity. And you've shown yourself to be completely insane. By the way, with no real policy prescriptions, let's talk about that, Joe. They're not offering anything. Trump pointed to a girl who got spiked in the head by a volleyball that was rocketed at her by a male of the species because that male was allowed to play in her game, and she's got permanent brain injury. And they sat on their hands.
Joe, they just voted on that. You could look at this on C-SPAN, which is really an apolitical station. You could look at the vote. Not one Democrat voted to keep men out of female sports.
Right.
Not one.
Not one.
You see, to me, that's not even a political discussion. That's obvious. That's common sense. That is how twisted a segment of our population has become, because that's twisted. That is absolutely twisted. I have 2 girls. There is no way I would permit. My daughter does play volleyball. I would permit my daughter to play with boys. She's in the 5th grade. Never mind going to a locker room with boys.
Right.
No way. We're out.
Right.
We're out. So this is my point. This is common sense stuff, and not one crossed the line. They have to rethink their positions, Joe, because I'm telling you right now, outside of the steal, maybe that's what they're thinking they could do, because that's what they thought they were going to be able to do, and that's why they opened the border. And that's what Europe is doing. Europe is taking power away from its own people. They're doing it. Europe is not about democracy anymore. It's a different definition of it's the institutional democracy. And that is exactly what they wanted to happen here. And ultimately, these ideas do not resonate with people. The 80%, not the 10% on this side, not the 10% on that side, the 80% rank and file. And they don't care. And that's why they opened the border, to get those votes. And that was the strategy. And they could say, scream all you want. We're going to do what you want under the guise of democracy. We're going to put it in democracy wrapping paper, just like they put Joe Biden. He was the wrapping paper around their plan. And that's why Harris, when she campaigned, did not talk about any policy, because she couldn't. Because she knew if she opened her mouth, it would not have resonated with the rank and file. And that's why she did not do interviews. And that's why she never talked policy, because ultimately that would not have won her the presidency. So she just tried to basically do the rope and dope like Joe Biden did when he went into the basement. And lightning does not strike twice. And she lost in a historic way.
They couldn't cheat. In other words, they were prevented from cheating, particularly in the swing states, and they lost. That's all. We've said it before. They can't get elected dog catcher. I can't wait for the midterm. See, the Democrats, traditionally, Joe, we sit there and go, okay, Barack Obama got elected. 2010, the Republicans will come in, and they did. All right. See, here's the difference, though. And I think this is a very good, what would you call contrast. Barack Obama came in 2008. Great campaign, great speaker, gave great speeches, and then he started to do the things. He never was so specific about what he was going to do. People didn't know the details of Obamacare. A lot of that had to take place behind the scenes because he knew if people saw, I'm using Obamacare as an example, if people saw Obamacare in the light of day, they would have said, no, I don't want this. So they had to lie about it and everything else. The point is, Obama had to lie about the things he was doing in the first 2 years. And then when he's trying to, then when the light was shown on it, in 2010, you had the Tea Party. And they swept in, okay, and they put a check on him. And I said, okay, that'll keep a check on him. We mentioned before, he was one of the most defeated, if not the most defeated presidents at the Supreme Court in modern history. He lost 9-0, 8-1, 7-2 on many of the things he tried to do. So there was a check on his power because what he was doing, number one, or most importantly, I should say, the American people didn't like it and they reacted to it.
It was also dude, it didn't go along with the Constitution. That's why he got crushed in the Supreme Court.
No, but you're right. And I want to make one more point. I'm going to throw it over to you. Here's the difference between that and Donald Trump and why I'm embracing the midterms this time around for an even larger expansion of the House and Senate, because Trump ran on all of this and he's doing all of this, never in the dark. None of this has been in the dark. The American, regardless of what the sycophants in the media say and the Democrats in the House and Senate and in Washington, all of this has been in the light of day, and the American people are loving it. And if he continues to go down this road, when the midterms come around and taxes are hopefully non-existent on the personal income tax, but taxes are way low, the economy's booming, and we're being treated fairly because of Donald Trump on the economic level. Joe, what are they going to run on? Men and women's locker rooms? I don't know.
No, I hate Donald Trump. That's what they're going to run on. But play Stephen A. Smith. He's a Democrat who voted against Donald Trump. Listen to what he has to say because he has a lot to say. And if you want to win, you should listen to him.
I actually didn't know that he voted. I'm actually surprised given the way.
No, he did. I've heard him say it.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Shame on him.
Now you see why Stephen A. Smith was in the polls as a presidential candidate? See what I'm talking about? You see that idiocy right there? You talk about something, people being tone deaf. Why the hell would 22 Democratic senators be literally echoing the same thing and think that would resonate with the American people? All it shows is that the same fabric of our democracy is unchanging in the eyes of some of these officials, and as a result, the constituency they represent, which is why Donald Trump is in office. What, do I have to come up to Capitol Hill and give you lessons? Seriously, you don't get it? All you did, Elizabeth Warren, Cory Booker, Chuck Schumer. Let's all get together. Let's put this in a prompter, and all together, albeit in separate rooms, we'll grab a microphone and say the same damn thing. And that's what's going to resonate with the American people. And then you wonder why you're no longer in power. You wonder why Trump is in the White House.
Well, I see, but here's my thing, and he's 1,000% correct. But here's my problem with Stephen A. Smith, dude. If you voted Democrat, okay, you voted for all those people, Stephen A. You won't go against Trump. What is it against? What do you have against Donald Trump that you didn't vote for him? He's pro-worker. Are you Democrat? You pro-worker? Are you for Stephen A. Smith? I don't think is for men and women's locker rooms. So Trump's against that. Is it about abortion? Donald Trump's not pro-life. He claims to be, but abortion is legal all across the United. So is it abortion, Stephen A.? Why would you vote? I would tell Stephen A. Smith, you want to do something good with your celebrity, okay? With your popularity, you need to go to, if you're going to keep voting Democrat, Stephen A., these are the people that they're going to put up with. I would tell you and people like you who think the Democrat Party needs to change, you need to wrest control of your party back from the wackos, is what you have to do. And a lot of that's going to be that you're going to have to agree. I want to say this story right away. And that means that on some of these issues, perhaps not all of them, even though for the life of me, I still don't understand why they hate Trump so much. It has to do with the deep state. On these issues, you're going to have to go against your party that used to be Democrat positions, and you're going to have to you're going to have to convince your party that they're going to need to agree with Donald Trump. Unless you're willing to do that, guess what, Stephen A.? Prepare to be a loser in the next election too.
Well, I'll tell you what. He's basically saying that you have to rethink your strategy, but I think there's some thought even behind that. I think they're not that stupid. I think they're counting on other factors to basically say, I don't care if the people are against us because we're going to rig the election. We're going to gerrymander the Congress. Remember, if 15 million people become citizens, Joe Pasillo, that is congressional seats. That is, what's it called? Most of those, if not all of those, will be votes for the wokeism, for the globalism, and they steal the country away from the people. And maybe they don't care. Maybe they're counting on that. And they're basically like, because that's what Europe is doing. Europe has stolen their country away from their own people. You have bold statements being made by PM Stammer, basically how he's 4 times he was asked if he should take back a statement about giving heat to people who were retired, and he wouldn't. That is such a horrendous thing to say publicly. And he's basically like, I can say it and still stay in power. Because we stole power from you and you have no recourse. And maybe that's the strategy. Because I do think that was the plan with Harris. That's why the border open. They're going to take it's basically like, and then under the guise of, well, it's a democracy. Well, in a way, yes, it is a democracy, but you gerrymandered the democracy. That's what you did when Trump lost. You changed the rules without going to the state legislature, which is a violation, and you did that under the guise of an emergency. It even almost went to the Supreme Court, but John Roberts chickened out. That was a case in Pennsylvania. Look it up. Are you paying attention? But most people don't care, because what I've learned, I'll tell you this, we've been doing this show now for 7 years. I've learned a lot about human nature in these years. People are not interested in justice. People are not interested in equity. They're interested in what they believe works for them. That's what they're interested in, Joe. It's about power. It's about how does this work for me? And I don't care if it's not just for you. And that's how their actions say that. They really do. And it's illogical. Like I said, the vote about men participating in female sports, every single Democrat voted for that.
Yeah,
Some of those people have children. Some of those people have girls. Yet that is the way it is. And that is why I'm going to tell you, that's why, if, in my opinion, politics can't fix America. There is a cancer in this country, Joe. There is a cancer. And I'll be truthful with you. Hearts and minds have to change. The vote isn't going to change that cancer. Just like when you have cancer, you got to have radiation. You got to shrink the tumor. Right. And you can't do it by force, because I'm going to tell you this, that's short term. People's minds and hearts have to change. And I think its only way is like a great awakening. It's happened 3 other times in America. That's the only thing that's going to change this country, because there is a segment of this population, if you ask me, it's not political. It's a sickness, Joe. It's a sickness. And that is not a building block of a safe and productive society. It will never produce that. And we could see that in our cities, San Francisco, New York, Chicago. They're a wreck. LA. These are our major cities. They're beautiful cities, and they're a disaster.
They're a wreck. They're a wreck. Well, let's shift gears a little bit, and let's see what Dougie's got to say. Gotta love Dougie. Let's go see. Let's listen to what the Dougster's got to say.
Are people nervous? Yeah, they're nervous because of President Trump. We have to make sure you have 2 choices here, folks. We roll over as a country and just let them run over us, or we fight like hell, like we've never fought before. I'm taking option 2. I'm fighting like hell, and we're going to protect Canada. He's underestimating the Canadian people, the resilience of the Canadian people, and the strength of the Canadian people. I said, number 1, I don't start a tariff war, but we're going to win this tariff war. Right off the hop, I've directed the LCBO, we're the largest purchaser of alcohol in the world, to remove every bit of U.S. alcohol off the shelves. I know my good friend, the governor of Kentucky, he's losing his mind right now. I said, you better talk to your president. Mitch McConnell, senior senator from Kentucky, they're losing their mind. We purchased over $1 billion of alcohol, 3,600 products, 35 states. It's going to hit them. We call them the kitchen table issues. Then we're going to cancel.
He goes on from there. He's going to talk tough. I'm going to make a point to you. No, the numbers I've heard, and I don't have the exact ones, okay? He just got done talking about kitchen. He's talking about alcohol, number 1. Okay, Doug, you're not fighting an alcohol war with the United States, okay? If you don't buy Bullet Bourbon from Kentucky, don't worry about it. They're going to be just fine, okay? They're going to be just fine, I promise you. We don't need Canadians to buy our products. They'll get hit in their pocketbook a little bit, but they'll be just fine, I promise. That's number 1. He wants to talk about kitchen table. What does everybody have around the kitchen table? Kentucky bourbon or eggs or milk, okay? And important products like that. Or what goes into buildings like steel and aluminum. Do you know what Canada charges us? Do you know what Canada charges us on those kitchen table things like eggs and milk? Joe, it's ridiculously more than Trump is proposing to charge them. Trump wants reciprocal tariffs. If you're putting 20% on our products, we're putting 20% on your products. It's that simple. We don't care if we're stronger than you. We don't care if we're more prosperous from you. We don't care if we have a larger economy than you. Our people still need to eat. And our people need not suffer simply because we have a prosperous nation. And we got a lot of suffering people in this country, Joe. A lot of suffering people. So I tell Dougie straight up and say, you can talk tough all you want, dude. You're going to lose. You're going to lose.
I'm going to take it in a different direction. This rhetoric that Donald Trump basically put out has galvanized the Canadian people in many ways. And I applaud you for that. Good for you. You're proud of your country. But what Dougie Ford and many people like him, including Pierre Poilievre, what they're doing because it's working as far as it's resonating with the people and their politicians and they want votes, is you're forgetting what Justin Trudeau did to you for 9 years. And what you're going to do, Doug, is push your people into the spider web, which ultimately is going to push your people to Donald Trump. Mark Carney is going to double down on what Justin Trudeau did. And by the way, that was the plan. That's why Justin Trudeau suspended Parliament for 3 months. So Mark Carney, the carpetbagger, could come in, get dropped in, because if he didn't suspend the Parliament, Pierre Poilievre would be the PM right now. So Justin Trudeau wins again and you lose again. And Dougie Ford is pushing the people to Mark Carney, who is going to kill you. You're already crushed. He is going to slaughter you. Right. Donald Trump isn't going to slaughter you. Your own people, Mark Carney and his crew, are going to come in and double down. And he's, again, very bold. Listen to his rhetoric. He's very bold. He's going to impoverish you. And ultimately, here's another thing. If Trump is serious, and he may be, Trump is not interested in Ottawa. Trump is interested in Western Canada. He's not interested in Montreal, in Quebec. He's not. He's interested where the oil is. And Mark Carney is going to deliver your people to Donald Trump because he's going to drive you into poverty.
No, it's absolutely right. Along those lines, here's a lawyer from Alberta, Jeffrey Rath. Listen to what he has to say.
Statehood? Well, there's a group of Albertans that are working together right now to put together a delegation to go to Washington to talk to the Trump administration about Alberta petitioning for U.S. statehood. It's quite evident that we're being governed by idiots in Ottawa who don't understand that we can't afford a trade war with our largest trading partner. And rather than simply apologizing to President Trump for not meeting our NATO commitments and not adequately securing our border, apparently the Trudeau government has decided to declare a trade war and run up trillions of dollars in costs like they did during COVID on a made-up emergency. So there's a number of us in Alberta that have had enough and want to go speak with the Trump administration about the benefits of Alberta joining the United States.
That guy, that is the last thing that Ottawa wants to hear.
Well, the voice, in fairness, he's in the minority, but I think that voice exists, and I have seen it also in Saskatchewan on X. He's not the only one. I just found that particular clip just to prove that voice is out there. And as people are being starved to death, as you can't heat your house, as you can't put fuel in your car, that voice is going to get louder because Mark Carney does not care about you. He is a globalist. He is for an ideology. And if you ask me, he's smarter than Justin Trudeau. Mark Carney actually has brains in his head. Justin Trudeau is a talking head. Mark Carney is actually smart. He is going to crush you. So I'll be truthful with you. Ultimately, Canada is losing sight of the trees in the forest, and Dougie Ford is blinding you. You're forgetting what Justin Trudeau did to you for 9 years. Get ready and buckle up. It's going to get worse. And it's not Donald Trump who's going to do it to you. It's your own politicians.
Well, listen, I hope somehow, some way, I hope Western Canada can pull it off. I really do. And to have a piece of land as the 51st state that connects what they call the lower 48 with Alaska, all the natural resources, make us even more economically powerful because of the oil that's in the ground. See, my problem is that regular Canadians in the eastern provinces are going to suffer. Okay, they're gonna suffer because as few conservative voices there are in Canada, there would be less if Alberta became part of the United States. Say Alberta and Saskatchewan are correct me if I'm wrong, Joe. Those are the two provinces we're talking about, right?
Correct.
Right. So your conservative voices, your more rugged types, they're out there. Okay. And the other people are going to suffer. People that I know in my life, people that I have family who live in Niagara Falls and St. Catharines in that area. Okay. And it's a shame. But the thing is, listen, that's why the good Lord invented feet. So that if Alberta and Saskatchewan did that, maybe you want to move from Niagara Falls, maybe you want to move from Ottawa, maybe you want to move from Quebec, and get out of Dodge and go to the 51st state of the United States. Things will be much better for you. So let's wrap it up with who else? Elon Musk. Joe, I swear, I fear for this guy so much. Now he's got protection up to you know what. I mean, you basically got to send a nuclear bomb in if you want to take this guy out. But here's a very candid moment with him and Joe Rogan.
But I think if I fully destroy the corruption and the graft, they will kill me.
That's a fucked up thing to live with.
Yes. So I'm like, damn it.
Well, listen, I really hope they don't kill you.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I strive to be alive.
But here's the thing, just to kind of put it in perspective, there's always going to be corruption in government. Everybody knows that on every level, local, state, federal. There's always going to be a certain level of corruption. It is a human institution. Nobody's thinking any other way to say, well, we got to root out all corruption. That's not what's going on here. It's when you go from petty bribery and what your local councilman does and your mayor and your governor and all things that people for the most part are very tolerant of. They don't like it, but they're realistic and they say, okay, there's always going to be a certain level of corruption. We're going to try to expose it. We're going to have laws against it. And hopefully we can keep it at a minimum. That's not what Elon Musk is talking about. Elon Musk is talking about, Joe, this is corruption that goes from a $5,000 paper bag that you used to give the local mayor. You're talking about trillions and trillions of dollars, which not only enrich them, it sucks to any power you have. If you don't have any sort of financial independence, let's say you're in debt, you're living paycheck to paycheck, whatever the case might be, when they're sucking trillions of your dollars out, you have less power. And that's really the problem. That's why they hate this guy so much, because if he's really successful in what he's doing, again, he's not going to completely stamp out corruption, but everything, the apparatus they have set up that take Bonnie and Clyde to a whole new level, a global level, all right, that apparatus is what's going to be destroyed under Trump and Musk. It'll be exposed by Musk with his technology, and it will be destroyed by Donald Trump through executive power. That is what they fear, because that structure has been being built for decades and decades. It's about to come crumbling down.
What I would say is this. I believe what he said. They would kill him because power is never given. It's taken, and power is being taken away from the machine. And that's why they're freaking out. Yeah. And Terrence Williams is correct. What are you so upset about? They're stealing your money, your hard-earned money. The average American, I heard a statistic recently. We played it last week. Last week, $68,000 a year. Average from coast to coast. That is a hardworking person to make that money. They're stealing from you. And yet you somehow cannot see past your tribal hat, your identity that you've basically dug yourself into, and you're handing them the key to your house to keep stealing from you. Joe, it's a sickness. It really is a sickness. If you're going to look me in the face and you tell me that you make $68,000 a year, because that is the mean in America, and you're going to empower people that are going to continue to rob you, I don't know what to say to you. That's not a political conversation. That is simply crazy. Yeah. And I don't care who's running. I don't care who it is. It comes down to, don't you want to take care of your family? Don't you want to put your hard-earned money into your pocket? That's not political. That's just common sense. And it's a sickness, Joe. I see things on Facebook, on X, and again, to me, because I'll be truthful with you, my identity isn't in the Republican Party. My identity is in my Catholic faith. Now, I have biases like everybody else. I'm not going to pretend like I don't, but I do also equally hate both parties. I try to look at it objectively. And when it comes to people stealing my money, I'm not supporting you. I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. And if you're making $68,000 a year, which is the mean, I'm not making this up. You live in Iowa, you make $54,000 a year, and you're voting for someone who's robbing you, and you work 55 hours a week. Joe, something has to be re-examined. And that's what's not going on. And that's kind of sad, if you ask me. And frankly, that's why politics can't solve this problem. People have to have a change of heart. If you ask me, that has everything to do with us abandoning God. There's scales in front of people's eyes because they've dug their feet into something, and that's their identity. It's like cult behavior. Can't go against the cult. And that is sickness. It's a sickness.
Well, that's why one of the things that we're going to do here at the Front Line with Joe and Joe, we're going to continue to pray for each other and for our nation, and that we do have that change of heart. In the meantime, don't go anywhere. At the end of the show, we're going to play a clip from Victor Davis Hanson. Remember, thanks once again. We're across X, Rumble, Facebook, and YouTube. So like, subscribe, share, help us out, do all that fun stuff. Remember, until the next time, that our conversation is your conversation, and that conversation is going on everywhere. We'll talk to you soon.
And they call it the MAGA revolution. It's not a revolution. It is a counter-revolution. There's a big difference. This is a restoration. Let's use the word Trump restoration. We don't really appreciate what we've been through with 8 years of the Obama revolution and the 4-year more radical third term of Obama using or employing the waxen effigy of Joe Biden. A revolution that we've experienced was a cultural, economic, political, social revolution. It was very similar to the French Revolution under the Robespierre brothers. We should remember what they tried to do. They changed the days of the week. They renamed things. They tore down statues. They went after the church. Does this sound familiar? This revolution that we've experienced, everything was up for sale. Everything was negotiable. We invented a third gender and rammed it down people's throats. We tore down statues. We said 1776 was no longer the foundational date. It was 1619. We changed the very mechanism that we vote. We went from 70% of the electorate voting on election day to 70% of the electorate not doing that, either through mail-in or early voting. That was a radical change that had no discussion. It was done by fiat. It was incredible. We looked at girls' sports and we destroyed it. We said that transgendered biological males that were now transgendered females could compete. They won over 600 medals they took away from hardworking female athletes. We had drag shows among young children. It was an effort to change the entire Constitution. We forget that. They were trying to bring in Puerto Rico as a state and Washington, D.C. to get 4 instant senators. They were proud. They said that they were going to pack the Supreme Court. It hadn't been tried since 1937. And it was a object of disgrace ever since, but they were proud to try it again. They talked about making states, the Senate, look like the House. They wanted, and a lot of them were advocating it was not fair that one senator in Wyoming, to take one example, is worth 250,000 votes, but a senator in California represented 20 million. They wanted to change the makeup of the Senate. They wanted to get rid of the Senate filibuster. Remember that. They wanted to bring back neo-Confederate nullification. 600 jurisdictions in the manner of South Carolina in 1832 or on the edge of the Civil War in 1860 when neo-Confederate Southern states said the federal government's law does not apply to us. Tariffs, Yankee tariffs, no, we were going to override them. Andrew Jackson almost invaded the Carolinas over that, South Carolina. And so these jurisdictions said, federal law doesn't apply here. We're exempt. We have our own laws. You cannot, federal immigration law does not apply here. It applies everywhere else to you, but not to us. So this was a revolutionary movement. Movies were different. Sports were different. Take a knee. And Donald Trump came in, and it was not sufficient to say we're going to stop the madness of $37 billion. We're going to stop the madness of being short 40 or 50,000 military recruits because of this DI, coupled with the humiliation in Kabul. We're going to stop the appeasement of China. But that wasn't all. He said, the government is broke. We're going to go through all of these agencies. And finally, for the first time in the history of this country, when somebody says they're going to cut federal spending and drain the swamp or cut the administration, we're going to do it. And there's going to be no changing names except to go back to traditional names. And we're not going to topple statues. And if you break the law and you're on campus and you're on a student visa, you're going to go back home. So we're in the midst of a counter-revolution. It's not revolutionary. You know what it is? It's a return to normalcy. It's a return to common sense. It only looks revolutionary to revolutionaries. But to the rest of the people, it is a counter-revolution to restore normalcy and bring the country from the far left fringes back home again.